The best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Get your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Welcome in. This is FantasyFling with DFS Army doing a Millie Maker recap for week 16. Want to see what won the Millie Maker this past week, as we do every week. And then a little bit of MME strategy of DFS pros in the Millie Maker. But really what I want to focus on is the small slates, because there's going to be a ton of them. We've already had several of them with the holidays, the Saturday slates, the Sunday, the Monday slates, and then obviously when the playoffs come, this is all we're going to have. So we really want to review these and see how to attack these slates. So let's go ahead and get into it. So over at Fantasy Labs here, and by the way, I get a lot of questions. This is free. So if you want to sign up for Fantasy Labs and kind of review past slates yourself, you could certainly do that. Or you could just watch this podcast, and we'll do this every week for you. But the lineup that won it was, obviously, if you watch the games, you knew it was going to be a Joe Flacco to Amari Cooper stack to bring it down, and that's what it was. But this lineup also had David Njoku, who was the other great play in that game. So Flacco, Cooper, and David Njoku. Cooper absolutely broke the slate. There were two players that broke the slate, and you needed them both. That was going to be Breece Hall at 23%, and then 11% Amari Cooper. So 11% of the field is definitely enough that you had to have him kind of player from type performance from Cooper. So 54 points. I mean, you got almost 100 points here between Amari Cooper and Breece Hall, which is just insane. Now, there was another stack, a secondary stack, Jahmyr Gibbs to KJ Osborne. And, this is kind of where the lineups correlated. Everything's great, but this is kind of where variance of DFS comes into play. KJ Osborne does not get 20 points if Jordan Addison, doesn't get hurt. So this is just kind of one of those secondary stacks, low owned, cheap, that the stars aligned and, help this lineup get to the top with the secondary stack of Osborne and Jahmyr Gibbs, Osborne being the beneficiary of Jordan Addison getting hurt. And then you also had Bucks D and Mike Evans. So you had another little stack here, team stack, Evans and Tampa Bay D, 27 points from Evans, who just continues to smash. I love Evans this week. Felt like he was a good play going against Jacksonville's pass funnel. And Tampa Bay, I like Tampa Bay more before, Trevor Lawrence, once we got the news he was going to play. But he was not himself, and, threw several interceptions, wasn't very good. So this was a great play still. 27 points and 16 points. So, really good lineup. I guess Tyler Lockett and Breece Hall were the two one-offs in this lineup because they had 7 stacked players. So total ownership, 118%. So, contrarian for sure. We're typically going to see under 130%, so Millie Maker winners, and just about 250 points. So after a lot of low scoring weeks, was able to get back up to the 250 point target, which is what you're looking for to win a large field GPP like this. So really good lineup, very chalky in some spots, as we talk about repeatedly Brees Hall, David Njoku, Mike Evans, eating that good chalk, but also finding guys who were low owned. Joe Flacco was a little chalky, but Jahmyr Gibbs is only 6% owned. Tyler Lockett, 7%. KJ Osborne, less than 1%. And then Tampa Bay D, under 10% at 7%. So enough contrarian pivots. And really, you're going to need about 3 in the Millie Maker, as you see 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 to take it down most weeks. So good stuff from Steven. Now, like I said, I just want to look a little bit at, what some of the top MME pros did, DFS pros, to kind of attack this slate. Whistles is one of the best. So I want to see his lineups, and then we're going to jump right into the smaller game slates. So he had a Fields and DJ Moore stacked for his top build. Now, what we're going to see here in a minute is he pretty much narrowed it down to 2 quarterbacks. So Fields to DJ Moore, he had a combination of QB +1 and QB +2. This lineup, I had Aaron Jones, Brees Hall, had Amari Cooper. So he needed Amari Cooper and Brees Hall to sniff anywhere at the top of the leaderboards. And 241. So like his top lineup, it wasn't even enough to crack the top 100 having both of those players. So you definitely needed both of those players, and then you needed all the other pieces around it. And then, this one was 1,700 Fields plus Cole Kmet. So he had quite a bit of double tight end. So you see the first 2 lineups are double tight end. Now he had Fields, but you see no Arizona players here. So a Fields to Kmet and Chicago D-stack, but no Arizona players. So, the bringbacks weren't forced. Here you see 1. But if he has an optimizer set up kind of like DFS Armies, where you use the sim boost, it's going to happen naturally. It's not going to be a forced bring back. So you'll see some of his lineups have a bring back of Arizona and some don't. And this one was Mullins to Justin Jefferson +1. This one did not have a bring back either and had double tight end. We're going to look at his exposures. Like I said, 2 quarterbacks. You just saw them, Mullins and Fields, and basically 1% Trevor Lawrence. So it's almost all Justin Fields and Nick Mullins. And this was interesting to see because normally what I've seen from the Whistles in the past is he will have 1 quarterback locked in, or he will just kind of be flat and have a bunch of quarterbacks. Here was a scenario where obviously he had 2 that he really liked, couldn't choose, so just decided to almost exclusively go 50-50 on those guys. His running back pool, I really liked. I had a very similar pool, Bijan, Chuba Hubbard, and Brees Hall. So these guys, almost all above 30%, close to 40% for Chuba Hubbard. Then he had Singletary. I didn't like Singletary on this slate. Ended up being a good fade for me. But I didn't have Amari Cooper, so it didn't really matter. Same. I like the running back exposure here as well. ETN, Rashad White. These guys felt specifically Rashad White was in a good spot. Brees Hall was in a good spot. Chuba Hubbard, Bijan. These guys were all in good spots. And it really comes down to the running backs most weeks. Did you have the right ones? Did you make the right fades? And that ends up kind of being your week. A little bit over on Jonathan Taylor, and he was under on Chandler. So keep doing that. Dontavian Wicks. So he had a pretty good score, but he got hurt. So kind of capped his ceiling or, what he might have ended up with. Garrett Wilson, we love this play as well. Justin Jefferson, it is $8,100 price tag. I thought that was a good spot in that game environment. Liked Drake London this week as well with Heineke, and then loved DJ Moore. So, this was, I think, a great play here. And then DJ Montgomery, I had quite a bit of him as well. I get it with Michael Pittman out. Obviously he didn't smash this time, but it was a play that you wanted. I think at the salary, based on the role that he saw when Pittman was out the prior week, I think it was a good play, to have some of that guy. Not crazy, but some. And then, you really needed Amari Cooper. So being over the field, you basically had to just be even with the field on this slate with Amari Cooper, or else you were going to get burned. Ridley did pretty well too. And surprisingly enough, his best lineup, he was under on Evans, but, had 7%. So sometimes that's enough. Now, a tight end, a lot of the guys that we were on that we liked, Cole Kmet, TJ Hawkinson, obviously he got hurt. So, that really sucked. You pay $5,800 for a guy and he gets hurt. It's difficult. And then Chig, Ingram, liked Ingram with all the wide receivers out. Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, and David Njoku. So David Njoku and Trey McBride were obviously the two best plays on the slate. And then, had a lot of Jets D. So liked the chalk Jets D. All right. And then another guy I want to take a look at real quick. We're going to look at Mr. Statsational himself, see how he attacked this slate. All right. So his top lineup had Joe Flacco as well, David Njoku, Amari Cooper. So very similar. And it had Breece Hall. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Basically had the two gotta have it guys, had basically the Millie Maker winning stack between Flacco, Njoku, and Amari Cooper. But Cleveland D, 7 points. That wasn't quite enough. Wicks getting hurt, only getting, 10 points, needed more. So outside of Amari and Breece Hall, just didn't get enough. Specifically, I guess, outside of Amari at the wide receiver spot. Garrett Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Dontavian Wicks. You need more flames. But absolutely crushed it with the stack plus Breece Hall. And, that's how he was able to place top 500 in the Millie Maker. So really good top lineup there. Let's take a look at his exposures. So very different style you'll see than Whistles. Nick Mullins, 14%, Justin Fields, 14%. We got Geno at 10%. So, just flat. And that's very much the way that Stational plays. At running back, we had Bijan and Rashad White above 20, and then Breece Hall. So, almost just even with the field on Breece Hall. Over on Chandler. Now, I guess one thing that, even though Sensational may not have crazy exposure to a lot of guys, he's really good at fading players that, end up being chalky and underperform, right? So, we got 12 points from Chuba Hubbard, and he was, basically a third of the field on Chuba Hubbard. So, that was a good fade right there. You'll see more of these along the way. Like Derrick Henry didn't have the best day. Was under on Derrick Henry. Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry actually had a good day. Jonathan Taylor, I meant, he didn't have at 7,200, didn't have nearly what you needed. Was under on these guys. So under on Achon, under on a lot of these guys. So that is a big part of it. And, when a guy like Tyreek Hill doesn't have a good day and he's 9,600, well, he only had 15% of that. So it didn't hurt him like it would having 30%, 35% Tyreek Hill. So over the field on Amari, really good. And that's kind of just not having too high of exposure to any players. That kind of helps you cycle through and get enough of the right guy that, not enough of the field had. So being over on Amari Cooper, put that one lineup into the top 500. That's, made it a pretty good day because most DFS pros on this slate lost like 2,500, 3,000. So, to only lose 1,600 was in this contest. It is such a disaster as far as the payout structure. Pretty good. So, yeah, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, and Amon-Ra, who absolutely smashed. All three of those guys. Specifically Amon-Ra there and Jefferson. And then even on DJ Moore. And surprisingly under on Mike Evans. So would have been a better day if he had more Mike Evans. And then, yeah, you're seeing here not really high on anyone. That's just his strategy. And I think the general idea behind that, like I was just saying, you're going to cycle through enough players and make a couple fades, be under on a couple guys that it's actually, you're going to hit that nuts lineup more often than not. I think Sensational took down the early slate like 2 weeks ago, and that's his strategy. So we like to look at different ways that people can win. So let's go ahead and want to hop over and look at the actual Saturday 2-gamer. This was so tilting. I had so much of the right build. I had Josh Allen as the nuts. I locked in Josh Allen. I had Pickens. I had Gabe Davis. I just didn't have the Gabe Davis and Higgins together. And I had a ton of Higgins. So that's how these things go sometimes. You have so many of the right players, but you just, in that one lineup, you didn't have the right combo. Well, let's see who did have the right combo and what it took to win this. Now, specifically on these smaller slates, you kind of have to just disregard a lot of the rules that you would normally set. So on a 2-game slate, you might allow 3 to 4 players against the defense. I'm looking to like a lock in the quarterback that I think is going to be the nuts because I got a 1 in 4 chance. And if you nail the right guy, you have really leveraged yourself above the field to take down a large field GPP. Like I said, I had the right quarterback and still didn't hit the nuts in 150 combinations, but I was one player off from doing so. So, that's just kind of how that goes. But yeah, you have to just look at different ways to attack it. You could play 2 running backs from the same game sometimes, players against the defense. Double tight end is hugely in play. So this lineup that took it down, James Cook and Allen. So even James Cook with his snowflake, this is kind of what I was talking about before this slate is like the opportunity cost of going down to like Mason Rudolph. It didn't make sense because there was no Keenan Allen. There was no Jamar Chase. So you could still jam in a lot of the studs and play Josh Allen, who was far and away had the highest floor and ceiling, was most likely to be the nuts out of any 4 quarterbacks. And that's exactly what ended up happening on this slate. So you had Josh Allen, but you were still able to afford, 7,000 James Cook. You're still able to get 6,500 T Higgins. So in fact, a lot of lineups you could have afforded Stephon Diggs as well, but Stephon Diggs didn't have a good game. It was a Gabe Davis day. Normally it's going to be one or the other. So you kind of wanted to have Stephon Diggs lineups and you wanted to have Gabe Davis lineups. But yeah, this one obviously had Allen to Cook and then Gabe Davis, and then Gerald Everett bring back, and then Najee Harris, T. Higgins, George Pickens, who was the guy that you needed, the slate breaker, 38 points, just unreal, and then Tyler Boyd as well. So you needed 2 Bengals, 2 Steelers, and then Steelers defense for 13 points. So let's see what legit Storm did for the user exposures here. So pretty much just went heavy on Josh Allen and Jake Browning and just got enough exposure to Mason Rudolph and Easton Stick. That's pretty much how I played it. In 150, I locked in Josh Allen, but I did have some like single entry with Jake Browning, just kind of hedged against those Allen builds. But yeah, 78% between Josh Allen and Jake Browning exposure. And then looked like pretty much played all the running backs, was under on Chase Brown, over on Najee, over on Spiller, over on Jaylen Warren, Eckler, Mixon, a little under on Mixon, and then under on James Cook. So surprising, it's the James Cook fade that may have helped get the top lineup, but yet the top lineup actually had James Cook in it. It's just weird how the numbers end up working like that. It's really strange sometimes. Being under on a guy and then having that guy in the winning lineup. Just because so many of the entries in the field had James Cook 80%, he was almost bound to be in the winning lineup. And like I said, it wasn't an opportunity cost thing because it really didn't cost you anything to put James Cook in there. So I think that's why so much of the field had him. And then at wide receiver, so over on Boyd, over on Irwin, getting the value guys with Chase out, over on Pickens. So that was great. You wanted to be over on Pickens or at least even with Pickens or you were going to get buried. Shakir, Johnson, and then T. Higgins, even with Higgins, just over on or under on Palmer. I had to sneeze. Still did. Okay. Gabe Davis. Just enough Gabe Davis, right? The fade of Deontay or Stephon Diggs and Deontay. Everett, Kincaid, Freiermuth. So just went all in on 3 guys. And Freiermuth, that's what really burned me. I was quite a bit over on Freiermuth, and he got a 0. I expected him to have like 5 to 10 point day at least. And then got all the defenses. And I really think that's the way to play this slate. Sure, it's just kind of the same as the offense or like the quarterback. If you can really guess the top scoring defense, you have a great 1 in 4 chance. But there's so much variance to defense. It's such a wild card. It's really going to either help you take down the tournament, win the GPP, or get absolutely smoked. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for that one. Let's go ahead and look. I wanted to look at the Monday 3-gamer, but Fantasy Labs does not have their numbers up yet. So they do, but they're incomplete. So we can't look at it. All right. So it looks like we got one contest, and this is awesome because we'll get to take a look at what won it, and then we'll DFS Pro need lunch money. We'll go ahead and look at, of course, Fantasy Lab's going to do this. We'll look at what he did for his MLB strategy, and we'll wrap this up. All right. So let's go to the Monday afternoon only, the 3-gamer. Okay. Single bullet, 31,000 entries. You don't need MME to win these. Just make sure you're building correlated lineups with enough leverage to take it down. So this is the leverage that you need. 4% Greg Dortch. That's it. That's all it takes. Baker Mayfield stack with Mike Evans. Evan Ingram bring back. So talked about it a little earlier. Evan Ingram, 18 points. And then this also had James Conner, 22 points. And Greg Dortch, 12 points. The Arizona-Chicago game. Khalil Herbert, Cole Kmet. I liked playing both Herbert and Roschon Johnson once the news came out and the foreman was out. I don't like a three-way committee, but a two-way committee, I can guess a little bit at low ownership, at low price. I like that scenario. And that's what ended up working out for MBren32 here. And also had CeeDee Lamb. So, the top studs in this lineup were CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans. Baker stack with a bring back of Evan Ingram. Double tight end. Greg Dortch, the cheap contrarian play at 4%. And Khalil Herbert, 216%, 184 points. You'll notice player against the defense because Tampa Bay here. 2 running backs on the same game, James Conner, Khalil Herbert. So that's exactly what we're talking about on, how being able to attack these slates. The rules that you would use for a normal slate, you have to disregard for these. So need lunch money, second place, so close. The difference here had Calvin Ridley and Rashad White, I'm guessing, versus CeeDee Lamb and Khalil Herbert. So that ended up being the difference between those two. Actually, quite different. Had Darnell Mooney instead of Dortch. So really hurt the lineup. But other than that, these lineups were very similar. Oh, and also had Justin Fields, obviously. Let's see, 58% Fields, Tua, Dak, Kyler. So basically about double-digit exposure to Lawrence, Dak, and Tua, and then Fields was the guy with the most exposure. Then we had Pollard, Etienne, and Connor as the highest exposures. Same with Rashad White, but was under the field there. Faded Roschon. He was highly owned on this slate, myself included. And also faded Khalil, but interesting enough, had even less Khalil Herbert. So just didn't like that backfield at all. And we got Darnell, CeeDee Lamb, Parker Washington, and Michael Wilson. The highest owned guys. Under on Ridley, under on Godwin, under on DJ Moore, while under on all the top dogs, but was still able to put a lineup in. Well, I guess being over on CeeDee Lamb was good. Gosh, if we just not had 48% exposure to Darnell Mooney, spreaded that out a little elsewhere, probably talking about a really, it's still a really good day, right? 34,000 profit, but might have hit that top spot. And then, you wanted to have Kmet and Ingram. So good being over the field there. Saved the day, I'm sure. Now, got exposure to all 6 defenses. On this is kind of what I was talking about. There's 3-game slate, 6 defenses. Was able to get exposure to all of them because it's so high variance. It's really tough to nail the top D when you're just guessing with all the variants. But, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Appreciate you joining me. I won't be doing the weekend review next week because I'll be getting married. someone else, I'm guessing, is going to take that over. But then I will be back week 18 to do the weekend review. I want to bring it all together when I do week 18. I want to look at this seasonal data from every single slate of the season. I want to kind of bring it all together so we could see what trends that we could take away from this year going into next season. I know it's been a crazy year, but I'm sure there's some things that we could take away going forward. So thanks for joining me. Keep a lookout for the cash lineup review. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like this kind of content, let us know. Hit that like button, comment, let us know so that, we'll keep it coming for you. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notification button because we got a lot of content coming your way for all these extra slates. So we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.